Shalom, giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations, as always, to the elect. And I wanted to deal with the Medes in biblical prophecy. As we know, the Medes, were the next kingdom to come in rulership after the fall of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, as you can see here in Daniel 5:28. There is a prophecy given to Daniel that the kingdom of the Babylonians will be given and divided into the hands of the Medes and Persians. Now, when you look up the term Mede, Madai, Madai. Now, when you read it, it says Middle Land, but when you go into it, Madya, as you can see here, a people descended from the son of Japhet who inhabited the territory of Media. Land inhabited by the descendants of Japhet, located northwest of Persia, proper southwest of the Caspian Sea, east of Armenia and Assyria, west northwest, of the great desert of the great salt desert of Iram. Now, when you go into prophecy, see, this is why a lot of people are of the opinion that the people who currently inhabit this land are of the seed of Japhet, because we know end time prophecy, is headed by Jacob and Esau. Esau will be the main nation in rulership. The Medes have no part, as we broke down, this past camp last Friday. The Medes have no part in end time prophecy. But when you go into end time prophecy, as a matter of fact, let's get this in the book of Jeremiah, the 50th chapter. First, now at the very end, when the prophets will go out to declare the downfall of Babylon the Great and her idols, at this very time it says, for out of the north, Jeremiah 50:3, for out of the north cometh up a nation against her, which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein, and they shall remove, and they shall depart, both man and beast. Now we know that this is a future prophecy of what's coming to Babylon the Great, but when you go into prophecy, that land, or the one out of the north, speaks to Russia, which ultimately will be at the forefront in end time prophecy. They will be at the forefront to lead an attack against not only the Amalekites that are currently inhabiting the land of Israel, but also against Babylon the Great, and we see this happening right before our very eyes, as Russia is gathering various different, nations to her, or to him, for the purpose of formulating a beast system that is going to go and clash head to head with Israel and America, and many of America's allies that are part of the EU and NATO. We know Turkey is one of them, a part of NATO, is going to side with Russia. This is all prophetic, and right now we see many African nations leaning on Russia in these latter times, and we can clearly see, Iran, Libya, Ethiopia. We see all of these various different countries aligning themselves with Russia, China, Now, it says, for out of the north cometh up a nation against her, which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein, and they shall remove and depart, both man and beast. In those days, at that time, saith the Lord, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together, going and weeping. They shall go and seek the Lord their God. And this is all happening synonymously, during the Great Awakening. would also be a high level of prophecy taking place that's going to lead to the downfall of Babylon the Great. And Russia, all right, would be at the forefront of it. I mean, you can even go into the news right now, okay, and you can clearly see Russia, all right, warns of catastrophic consequence of the U.S. strikes Iranian nuclear sites, which Iran and Russia are prophesied to be linked in end time prophecy. Okay, that's in Ezekiel the 38th chapter. Okay, so there's many articles you can go to, all right, which we can clearly see Russia, all right, is at the forefront of leading a rebellion against the West. We don't have to get into too many articles, but okay, yeah. Let's see here. Yep, China, Russia, Iran. Okay, they're all linking together. But when you go into end time prophecy, you'll see the name Medes pop up again. All right. Let's go to a notable scripture. Okay. Let's get Isaiah 13 and 17. It says, "Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver; as for gold, they shall not delight in it." And we see the BRICS, which is a system of trade being set up by Brazil, Russia, China, Iran, and different, even Turkey's talking about getting in there. Many countries are jumping into this as a way to operate outside of the petrodollar. Okay, but again, it says, "Behold, I will stir up the Medes." Now, someone like Ron Dalton or someone unlearned will see this and they'll say, "Well, see, it says Medes. This must mean, okay, that the seed of Japhet in end time prophecy is going to be used, okay, and they're going to be the people in that land, okay, because again, when you read what these Medes are going to do, okay, let's read it again in the NLT. "Look, I will stir up the Medes against Babylon." Okay, so most people will think, okay, it's the physical seed of Japhet that's going to come against Babylon in the latter days. And then they'll link it to the people who are currently in that land or in these lands. And they'll say, well, see, the so-called white man is Japhet. Okay, it says they cannot be tempted by silver or bribed with gold. The attacking armies will shoot down the young men with arrows, and prophetically, Japhet wouldn't be a major military might in the latter days. Okay? The attacking armies will shoot down the young men with arrows. They will have no mercy or help on helpless babies, and those Russian troops are cold. Okay? Will show no compassion for children. Babylon, the most glorious of kingdoms, the flower of the Chaldeans' pride, will be devastated like Sodom and Gomorrah when God destroyed them. See? And when we go to how the ancient Babylon was destroyed, we just had it up in Daniel let's get Daniel the 5th chapter. Okay, how was ancient Babylon taken out? Okay, basically Daniel 5 and 28, "Thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians." So this destruction we're reading about in Isaiah the 13th chapter, okay, where it says Babylon, verse 20, will never be inhabited again. It will remain empty from generation to generation. This is a future prophecy. But why do you see the term Medes that would ultimately lead this? Let's get another prophecy of end time that speaks to the Medes. Okay, let's go to the book of Jeremiah, the 51st chapter. Okay, and we'll start at 11 and then we'll jump to 28. All right, Jeremiah 51 and 11. "Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord have raised up the spirit of the king of the Medes, for his device is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple." Okay, so the Lord is going to rouse up, which the word Russia means to rouse. Okay, the word Russia, all right, also means in the Hebrew, when you go back to it, it means Ra'ash. That's why here in the book of And we'll go to the point in just a minute, but I'm making these points real quick. When you go to Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, okay, it says, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. When you go to this word chief, okay, Ra'ash, head, top, summit, okay, Ra'ash, all right, that's also going into the name Russia, because ultimately they would be at the forefront of this rebellion against the West that's going to lead to many of her of America's allies siding with Russia. Many of America's allies are going to side with Russia to help destroy this place. Okay, that's all prophetic, and it's happening when you look at what's going on with those Europe nations as they're being weakened. Okay, and we go to the various videos on it, but again, going back to Jeremiah 51, okay, it says he's going to raise up the spirit of the king of the Medes. Now, prophetically, we know the physical descendants of Japhet, all right, have no play. So who is this talking about? Okay, it's speaking of the people who are inhabiting that land. Okay, let's jump to verse 28. Okay, that's 27. All right, and Jeremiah 50 and 51 are prophecies against the future Babylon that's going to be destroyed, not the ancient Neo-Babylonian empire ran by Nebuchadnezzar and the Chaldeans. Okay, this is the book of Jeremiah 51 and 27. Set ye up a standard in the land, blow the trumpet against the nations, prepare the nations against her. Okay, against who? Babylon. Mobilize them all against Babylon. Okay, when you read in the NLT, call together against her the kingdoms of Ararat, which is Turkey, Mini, all right, which is Armenia, okay, which these are all Japhetic lands. Okay, when you get into it, but they're not currently being inhabited by the original Japhetic people, because Edomites, okay, and different heathen nations rape, robbed, and murder, and particularly the Edomites. They removed the landmark. They called these different countries after the names. They stole the culture of the people. It says, call against her the kingdoms of Ararat, Mini, Armenia, Ashkenaz, Germany. Appoint a captain against her, calls her horses to come up as rough as caterpillars. And who's that captain? Russia is that captain. Okay? Prepare against her the nations with the king of the Medes. Okay? The captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the lands thereof. Okay? And this is going to lead to World War III. This is going to lead to destruction. Okay? The land of Israel. Okay? As well as Babylon the Great. All right? But the land of Israel will be rebuilt. Babylon the Great will remain desolate forever and ever and ever. So it says in the NLT, bring against her the armies of the nations led by the kings of the Medes. So we know the seed of Japhet have no pull in end time prophecy, and we know that Esau is the end of the world. Okay, so why is it constantly bringing up the Medes? Well, let's get this, what I typed in on Chat GPT. Okay, let's see what I brought up here. Okay, not that one. Okay, I said, is the USSR, now what is the USSR? Okay, that was ultimately the Soviet Union before it disbanded after the Cold War, which, you know, they disbanded, but here in these latter days, okay, because remember, NATO was created for the purpose of defense against Russia, the threat of Russian dominance. So the USSR eventually disbanded, and NATO, led by America, and the EU, you know, they've basically been the dominant power in the earth. All right, people have walked to their tomb, but we're living in a different time. And see, America thinks it's still dealing with a weakened USSR. Okay? Again, it says, is the USSR territory near the region where the ancient Medes ruled? Yes. See that? Yes. Part of the former USSR territory overlaps with the region where the ancient Medes once ruled. particularly in areas known as Northwest Iran, parts of the Southern Caucasus. Okay, now who do we know to have come from the Caucasus Mountains? Okay, which Caucasus means cave dweller. That's where you get the term Caucasian. Okay, key overlaps. The Medes in the 7th and 6th centuries BCE ruled a territory that included northwest Iran, eastern Turkey, okay, Armenia, Azerbaijan, possibly southern Georgia, which that's all right, linking with the territory of Russia, okay? And I asked it to show a map. I'm not sure how to get pictures to show up, okay? And I asked it here. I said, I am speaking of the territory of Russia biblically. Was it the original territory of the seed of Japhet? Okay, and basically it breaks down, you know, the different names, and in a nutshell it says, so yes, part of what is now Russia, all right, particularly southern and western regions, all right, are traditionally viewed as lands first settled by Japhet's descendants, especially Magog, Meshech, and Tubal, okay, which, again, this is why prophetically, okay, which we know the Russia prophetically will be a guard unto these nations, okay? So if you look at the people who are currently in power in Russia and inhabiting that land, these are Edomites, okay? As you can see, Russia agrees to fund construction of new nuclear plant in Iran. And see, this is exactly what prophecy said would happen. When you get Ezekiel the 38th chapter, right? Let's get Ezekiel the 38th chapter real quick, okay? Ezekiel 38, okay? And 4, speaking of what he would do with Gog, Magog just means of the land of Gog. It says, I will turn you around and put hooks into your jaws, meaning I'm going to control you, and you will be in a, you know, that's something to tame a wild animal. Russia would be in a very aggressive spirit in the latter days, and lead you out with your whole army, your horses and chariots full of armor, and a great, all right, horde armed with shields and swords, because they're also blessed with the sword. They're Edomites. Japhet was never blessed with the sword, but the people inhabiting the land of Japhet are. Persia, see that? Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya will join you too with all their weapons. And we see that right now. Persia is Iran. Okay, Persia is Iran. Okay, and I typed in here. Okay, I typed here. Okay. What nations are currently aligning themselves with Russia against the West? As of May 2025, several nations are aligning themselves with Russia in opposition to Western influence, forming a loose coalition often referred to as the Axis of Upheaval. Okay, I'm going to have to get into that. Or CRINC, all right, or acronym for China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. This grouping is characterized by authoritarian governance, all right, anti-Western sentiment, and increasing economic, military, and diplomatic cooperation. So you got China, Iran, North Korea, Syria, Venezuela, all right. You see Mali, Niger, all right. And then it gives you the different articles. What African nations are in league with Russia? These days. Okay, and it's searching, but again, as we just read here, Persia, Ethiopia, Libya. Okay, so I just asked it, what African countries? All right, but as you can see, Ethiopia, who they recently, in recent years, allowed Russia, all right, to build an embassy in their land, all right, for the purpose of Russia helping them with their military. As we know, Russia would be a guard unto these different nations. Okay, Turkey, who is a NATO member, has always kept it cool with Russia. Okay, and they're going to be joining hand in hand, okay, with Russia, all right, to shoot missiles on the land of Israel along with these various different countries, man. Okay, Gomer, Turkey, and all his bands, the house of Togarmah, Turkey, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto them, and be thou a guard unto them. And again, Russia is a guard to many of these nations. Okay, as a matter of fact, okay, yeah, you got a lot of African. Libya. Okay, does not it say that in prophecy? Persia, Ethiopia, Libya. Okay, Libya ain't joining hand in hand with the seed of Japhet, though. They're joining hand in hand with the Edomites who rule and inhabit the land of Russia, which, as we showed you, okay, if you look up an ancient USSR map, and then you look at a map of the territory ruled by the Medes, it's in the same area. So prophecy is speaking to the people who will be ruling in this region. This is why you see it say Medes. But Libya, Russia has capitalized ongoing conflict to expand its influence, military presence. All right, Russia military equipment has been transferred to Libya, bolstering forces aligned with Russian interests. So you telling me, and it's more countries, all right, Ethiopia as well. Why didn't you mention, let's see what it says. Why didn't you mention Ethiopia? They are in league with Russia as well. I bet he tell me I'm right. Because why you didn't mention Ethiopia? I mean, if you watching the news, if you looking at things clearly, I mean, what does it say? You are absolutely right. Ethiopia has been strengthening its ties with Russia in recent years, positioning itself as a significant partner in Moscow's expanding influence across Africa. Okay, so again, this prophecy right here is all true. Although we know that there's different nations, different African nations, other even EU nations, all right, and some NATO nations are going to join with Russia. But again, when you go into it, it's just that. See, let's look it up real quick. Yeah, I have the maps at home. I just typed in, the ancient, Mede Empire map. You can see that, and then I'll type in USSR territory map. Okay, and you could just look it up yourself. All right, it's it's in the same territory when you look at the borders. Maybe I'll do another video because I have the maps at home. But again, you even asking this, it tells you, okay, that the bordering is, pretty much in the same area. So this is why prophetically, all right, again, it says here, yes, part of the former USSR territory overlaps with the region where the ancient Medes once ruled. I mean, you could look it up yourself. We don't even have to get the maps. But this is why prophetically you'll see Medes. Okay? Medes. Okay? And they're also known as, in a lot of prophecies, those that are going to come from the north. Okay? As it says in the book of Revelation. Hold on. I forget where it's written. Anyway, Um, Euphrates. Okay. What's that? Yeah, here in Revelation 16 and 12, it says, "And the sixth angel poured out his vial in a great river, on the great river Euphrates, and the water there was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared." They're also known as the kings of the east because they're going to lead all of these countries against Babylon the Great. Okay, and when you go into it, okay, literally some years ago, as you can see, Russian military builds bridge to move across the Euphrates River. Okay, because they're positioning themselves, all right, for war. Okay.
The Russian military has built a bridge across the Euphrates River near Deir al-Zor, this to move troops and vehicles to the other side to support a Syrian army offensive.
Right, and they're over there to defend Syria, defend different key strategic positions. There's a lot going on, but I just wanted to get into that. When you see the name Medes, okay, in end time prophecy, okay, this Mede, that's going to be used by the Lord to stir up, a war. Okay, that's not speaking to the seed of Japhet. It's more so speaking to the people who inhabit that land. Okay, because all the Edomites did was rape, rob, murder, take lands, remove landmarks, and do what they've always done. Okay, and particular Israelite leaders should understand that. As you breaking these scriptures down and people come with these arguments, okay, you should be ready to defend the gospel and bring these key points out, all right, to stop all of the confusion, man. And again, Ron Dalton is not a prophet. He don't know what he's talking about. The Lord's not dealing with him. I said he had some decent ideas, but even that is garbage, because a lot of these documentaries can really be used by these dudes to expose certain things. The Hebrews to Negroes things, I didn't really watch it, so I can't speak on whether it was good or bad. But at the end of the day, Jake is through, okay? And everybody trying to save E, it ain't gonna work, okay? This guy's gonna get judged. Shalom.